Right, let's get going. So welcome all. This afternoon is another chapter in our Partner Thursdays, which is all about making the right connections and getting the help and insight that we need to ultimately drive opportunity and revenue. So over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about the Dubbo roadmap. We're going to be getting some insight into the latest market challenges and, more importantly, how we respond to that. And equally what's in our kit bag today that we can close deals this quarter. So I have the pleasure of being joined by quite a serious lineup today. We have Simon Broadbent, VP from Dubbo, and we have Tom Arbuthnot, who is the co-founder of Empowering.Cloud and a key member of the Microsoft community, and then John Martin, who many of you know as our Director of Meetings and Calling. Simon, can we kick off with you, please, as a bit of a reminder about what Dubbo is, supercharger to Teams, all of the above?
Sure. Listen, great to be here. Thank you for having us. We look like the world's worst boy band.
Thank you.
Yeah. Boy band. So who's Dubbo? Right. So we've been around for 11 years. We are, as the slide behind me says, the world leader in conversational data, particularly when you attribute that to the service provider community. So we are cloud only, cloud first, cloud native, call capture and conversational data, working exclusively with the service provider community. So that's our raison d'etre. So every day that we wake up, we think about how we can assist our service provider partners in delivering services, helping them monetize the voice data that transits their network. We are, as I said, cloud only. We don't have any technical debt. What you see with a lot of legacy call capture, recording AI vendors in the market is that they have a very, very large install base of on-premise technology that they have to support and they have to drive features forward to support their customer base. We don't have any of that, which means that we can every day innovate around our cloud proposition without having to look behind us to make sure that we're still servicing our on-premise customers. And that's really, really important because it allows us to develop our technology, our applications, which then you deliver into your customers at pace. We are rapidly deployable, as you'd expect from us to being in the cloud. And that deployment means that your gap from order taking to getting billable revenue is massively shortened. Okay, so we can provision with one click through BT, which is really, really important when you think about the revenue cycle. We are very, very secure in terms of our proposition. As you would expect from a cloud compliance reporting vendor, we spend a lot of our time working with compliance officers and CISOs in many, many regulated industries to really understand how we can continue to deliver a very, very secure, very, very compliant solution. With the BT proposition, we are in our third year of a relationship now. We are slowly productizing across a number of different areas of the business, including John's area, including UC and collaboration. And we're delighted to be here. We've had some significant wins with BT so far. It's an exciting time to be working with BT. You're going to hear a lot about Microsoft. You're going to hear a lot about augmenting a customer journey with AI. Unless you've been sitting under a rock for the last 4 or 5 weeks, you will have heard of ChatGPT, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of conversation around how that's going to deliver some value proposition, not just to your customers, but as an opportunity for us all to work together. So yeah, very, very exciting. Glad to be here, and I think you guys are going to have a really good panel interview.
Thanks, Simon. I'm going to pick up on some of those things, particularly around the AI aspect around security you touched on, and Tom will pick up on ChatGPT too. But John, what makes this our combined pitch and our partnerships so powerful? But I am going to make you frame it in your top 3, please.
Okay. A little bit about why we chose Dubbo, I think we'll start with. Was basically for all of the reasons that Simon said, the fact that it is entirely cloud-based. We could have launched a call recording or a regulated call recording capability with any one of the other vendors that had on-premise based type services, but we chose to go with an entirely cloud-based vendor and a vendor that worked across all of the platforms that we sold. So getting back to one of our top 3 or one of our top points of view is you know, the platform doesn't matter. We sell a service, whether it's telephony services or whether it's call recording services, across all of the major platforms. And, you know, so that's one of the key reasons why we chose Dubbo in the first place. Secondly, obviously, security, always really, really important. This is a regulated product. It has to be secure. Obviously, we went through all of the product launch processes to ensure all of those things are true. And obviously, the kind of customers this attracts, obviously, that's a really, really important element to the service. You know. And then there's the whole quality piece, you know, experience, the customer experience. It is really, really simple and easy to use. And Simon has mentioned the lead to cash journey is greatly reduced, so customers can acquire the service very, very quickly. So if I look at why we made the choice and why this partnership, I think, works so well, I think they're the three key reasons.
Well done. I thought you were going to keep going there, but really good. We'll pick back up on some of those. Tom, bringing you in here, you work with lots of different enterprises, some complex needs, some much simpler. What are you seeing in terms of what's happening in enterprises and their adoption of UC?
Yeah, so yeah, as you say, I mostly work with large enterprise customers. So I've had 10 years in that space working with the SAP, AstraZeneca, EY, so like high seat count customers. And UCaaS has radically changed that landscape. And we've all probably seen the numbers. So I mostly work around customers who are doing Teams, but Microsoft just announced their latest Q2 numbers, and Office 365 is approaching like 400 million seats. Of those seats, a whole bunch are already licensed for Microsoft Teams Phone. Teams just hit 280 million active users. So Teams, obviously, through the pandemic, just took enterprise by storm. And lots of the other UCaaS, I know you work with other vendors as well, lots of the other UCaaS did well in that time. But certainly what I'm seeing now with the customers I work with is a consolidation down to Teams being their primary platform. What's interesting is that most of those customers are doing it for meetings, and they're just starting on that Teams Phone journey. So if we take that 280 million active Teams users, Microsoft's official number for Teams Phone is about 12 million of those. That number was mid last year. We think that number's gone up, probably around 15 now. But Microsoft did announce yesterday they had 5 million Teams Phone seats in just the last 12 months. So that number is continuing to accelerate. And a lot of the things that previously enterprise would have and erred about cloud and about putting it onto a single platform, those objections are all melting away, and it's all about having a single platform. I think what's interesting for this panel conversation is, in a way, that's commoditizing a lot of the opportunity, particularly around traditional voice. Microsoft have the Operator Connect program, of which you're a part. There's 45 carriers on that program. And a baseline, they're all providing telephony for Teams, and the same, you know, telephony for Zoom, telephony for RingCentral. So for providers and partners who I'm working with, there's a need to add extra value, to differentiate, to show the customer what you're delivering beyond just servicing telephony for those UCaaS platforms.
And what's your thoughts then? So we've gone from multi-platform, and we've seen that, and we've seen consolidation and the commoditization of a traditional voice minute. In your view, how should we differentiate? And then John, I'll come to you for your BT lens on that.
Yeah, so isn't that John's job, right? Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, customers are aware that minutes are largely minutes, and there's all sorts of, you know, intricacies within that. And I've worked with, obviously, telcos, and, you know, there are differences, but at a broad level, they're seeing that as commoditized. What the great opportunity with Teams is there's a whole lot of ecosystem gaps to close for customers. So there's a whole bunch of pro services, a whole bunch of managed services, there's project work, but there's also, unsurprisingly, recording, right? It's a big ecosystem. You've got contact center, you've got devices, you've got rooms. Microsoft is different to, say, a Cisco, where everything comes from one vendor. In Microsoft land, you have this breadth of choice of certified providers. And the beauty of that choice actually is you as a partner, and as you working directly with the customer, you get to come to the customer and say, look, we've done the hard work of working out which combination of things we think are right for you, and we're bringing them to you. So you're taking that quite complex choice away from the customer and helping advise them on what the right journey is for them.
Okay. And John, you get engaged in so many of our deals with the account teams. Is competing getting more difficult in this space, and what are you seeing that holds more weight than what we've previously seen.
I think for a lot of our customers, for our large global customers, there are lots of things that are important to them. Obviously, the service, how it's constructed, the security of the service, its availability, SLAs, SLTs, and so on that come with the service. But then also, what's also really important for customers is the roadmap, whether you'll be able to support them on the journey ahead, whether we've got the capability they need to support their business moving forward, and things like call recording or any other additional applications which enhance the base telephony service are going to be key differentiators moving forward. The service journey, how easy it is to acquire more seats, you know, and the work that we've done on Operate Connect and the effort that we put into the digital interface.
Yeah.
That again is one of the key differentiators, but it won't be enough. You know, once you've established the service and you've gone through that journey, it's about what the service journey is going to be, what additional things that you're going to add in, and then as the technology changes, those capabilities need to evolve as things move forward.
And Simon, bringing it back to Dubbo then here, and from a call recording perspective, you started to talk about what Dubbo is, what the key points are. Again, to you, but a top three, what would you flag in the conversations you've had with customers that really hold weight?
Well, I think, the pandemic changed the way that we do business. Yeah, it changed the way we communicate and the platforms that we communicate on. So I think where we're looking at customers and where we're getting to our end customers through our service provider community, we are seeing that need to be able to provide a single pane of glass of compliance across multiple different platforms, multiple different UC platforms, whether it be Microsoft RingCentral, Cisco WebEx, etc., Zoom. But being able to apply a compliance capability and compliance lens across that as well. We're seeing customers needing to be able to scale up rapidly, and in some cases, sadly, scale down rapidly. So being able to provision and service from the cloud means that we can, build commercial models through you to be able to accommodate that. I think that's really, really important because, nobody really wants to be caught in a long-term contract now without that flexibility to be able to either turn services up, turn services down, or add incremental services. We're also seeing, an inordinate amount of competition coming from non-traditional service providers now. So the advent of direct routing and the capabilities that gives you, has suddenly meant that for the first time, a lot of people can start a service provider without really having the legacy infrastructure debt that someone like a BT might have. Yeah, so they can be very, very competitive. They can be very, very agile. I think, when you look at what we're delivering as a platform into BT and the ability to be able to provide services at a network level, considering that, we've already discussed that, voice is becoming very, very much commoditized. We're seeing minutes drive through the floor. That ability to be able to embed a Dubbo solution into the network and deliver innovative services on top of your network as a BT product, I think is really important, really exciting.
So staying with that then, in the network, not on the network, why is that so important?
So if you look at using something like inbound contact or GSIP as an example, by capturing voice conversation at a network level, we can then turn that voice conversation into data very, very quickly using a number of best of breed ASR engines such as IBM Watson, such as Microsoft Azure, Google, etc. So depending on where we're looking to deliver the service, because each of those different platforms provides different levels of accuracy depending on the language, the tone, and all that kind of good stuff. But it means that we can capture huge amounts of data in the network at scale, turn that into data, and then start to really drive actionable insight from that data. And that might be something as simple as telling a CMO what the 10 main drivers for inbound conversations were that day across any number of their locations. It could be telling a customer services director the top 10 reasons that customers complained. It could be alerting a CISO or a security officer to some kind of security breach or insider trading conversation that we think we've heard on the network. And we've all seen in the press the fines that some of the regulators are throwing out to the big banks now. So, being in the network gives us a lot more flexibility. It gives us a lot more opportunity to differentiate.
Okay, one of the other questions that came in before was around security. So how we record is as important as what is recorded.
Yeah.
Can you just talk to us around
Yeah,
security a little bit?
Without getting too technical, because I'll embarrass myself in front of my technical colleagues in the audience who will now be scrutinising every word I say. I think you have to take into consideration what you record, how you record it, where you store it. Yeah, so they're the three really, really important things. Compliance recording is a fundamental part of our product offering. So you'd expect our feature sets within the call recording and conversational data applications to support compliancy. So things like legal hold, et cetera, standard feature, unlimited storage. So we don't have to pass, data at the end of a period. From a encryption perspective, we encrypt all the conversations at rest and in transit, so everything's encrypted, and then we store locally in the geographical areas that we are engaging with the customers or the service provider in Amazon S3 buckets, which are again encrypted. So we work really, really closely with, as you'd expect, a lot of security officers when we're dealing particularly with the big banks across the world. We've got MiFID II, Dodd-Frank, HIPAA, many other security accreditations.
How do we embed Dubbo then in other DW products? So in terms of ICG, mobile, trading and command?
So obviously, the fact that it works with all of our UC platforms means that when we sell WebEx, Zoom or Teams, it can be provided with all those products. We struck a really good deal early on with Dubbo that if you buy it for one of those UC products, then you get it across all of those products. And we know from doing our customer research that many of our customers have more than one platform. So that's a real plus reason why you would buy it from us. When Teams Phone Mobile comes along, obviously the way the media routes, it routes up into Azure, into our session layer. So all mobile calls will be recorded by Dubbo. So you'll be able to have a native mobile call recording capability. And for once, you won't have a SIM-based recording and a call recording capability for fixed line. You'll have them both in the same place. So I think that's going to be a real advantage.
I think that'd be a real big deal for customers. That mobile recording's always been a pain point, and having it all in one place and all on one platform would be really nice for customers, I think.
Sure. I think just to add to that as well, John, that conversation around BT striking a deal to be able to unify the various different platforms from a single license is unique to BT. So BT is the only service provider that we work with globally that we allow to consume multiple UC platforms from a single license. So you have a real competitive advantage in the market with that.
Migration, always one that comes up. John, then Tom, I'll come to you for your view. How do we migrate? Is it a case of economics? How do we make it a bit stickier for customers to move?
I think this is the difficult question, and this is where we're always getting to discussions with our customers, because primarily a lot of the customers that would purchase this service are quite traditional. So I think they are going to have to be some extensive conversations you have with these organisations that are used to storing their data. But one of the real advantages, I think, of Dubbo is the fact that you can ship those recordings to different locations. So if the customer wants to store that not in the cloud, they can move those recordings out of the cloud. And it's going to have to be that sort of conversation for the industry to gradually make that move, I think.
Okay, and Tom, from your side, what you're seeing about customers migrating?
Yeah, I mean, the customers I'm working with are generally already on cloud for meetings, right? That's the first workload to go. So they've already kind of conceded that workload is going to cloud, and they're on their journey with phone. And if you go back 5 years, that would have been a very drawn out conversation about can we put phone in the cloud, but now that's happening a lot faster. And make no mistake, Microsoft are pushing very, very hard on those customers to get to Teams Phone. So they're being pushed, the industry's going that way. Because they're putting phone and meetings in the cloud, actually having data in the cloud is a foregone conclusion. So it's becoming less of a conversation. It's still an important one because there's a big data set there. So where it is, all the encryption stuff Simon talked about, but I'm not seeing the same resistance I would have seen 5 years ago about putting it in the cloud. It would have been, even if they were moving the telephony to the cloud, they would have tried to hold on to the compliance infrastructure. I'm seeing that less and less now. Everybody wants as a service, everybody wants cloud scale. So yes, you're not getting away from jumping through all those regulatory and technical hoops, but you can start to prove that can be done by references like the Swiss example.
That then a bit further in your point, John, in terms of what are we seeing is the typical use case for this?
you want me to answer that, or do you want to jump?
I'll take from Randy
You first.
Obviously, the finance and banking market is obviously key. So from a regulatory and compliance point of view, any organisation that has a trading arm or a trading business, obviously, again, because they're regulated areas. And then it's starting to extend out as to why you would want to capture calls and so on. So you could start to look at, you know, HR type of environments and other things. So I think the largest deals for us are going to come from the finance and banking markets, but there will be edge use cases that you could see. There will be other products available which would perhaps capture productivity and other areas moving forward. But for the products that we've got launched, I'd see those as the key places.
In a compliance-driven environment, we see obviously 100% attach rate. If you're looking at across an enterprise, compliance might relate to about 8 or 9% of users across the business, which is still great, right? But it's not giving us that really large addressable market. That's where the in the network recording and, you know, creating that intelligent network really adds value and differentiates you guys. You know, we've seen over the last 5 years, you know, return on investment capital going through the floor from service providers as they've invested in 5G. You know, the competition and the churn is significant. Your average revenue per user is going down because you're getting squeezed on price. So being able to widen that addressable market and provide value across a much larger user count in enterprise is really exciting, right? So don't think about it just as compliance recording in regulated industries. One of the big areas that we're seeing at the moment, John, is things like roadside workers, trackside workers. So legislation now says that their calls have to be recorded. So if you look like a TfL, you know, hundreds of thousands of employees. If you look at Network Rail, if you look at the Highways Agency, you know, Blue Light, you know, they are really, really coming into their own in terms of the regulations that are sitting around them. So that's a great opportunity for you guys as well.
I think you touched on the data there. I think that's the really interesting thing. We're all seeing, we mentioned ChatGPT at the start of the conversation. We're seeing how the ability to mine and leverage that data is catching up. So, you know, the kind of classic cliche of data is the new oil has been banded around for a few years, but we haven't been able to do that with voice and meetings historically. That has been a silo that we haven't been able to really crack. But now the technology's there to mine that data. I love your example, like a CMO being able to tell what's going on with inbound leads for the week and the key topics like that. That's real business value there.
And it you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be anything really exciting with the data. You know, just being able to understand the sentiment across a day or across a period of time during the day is really important. Being able to understand the tone of the conversation, and does that tone deteriorate or get better during a conversation? Really interesting insight that you can sell back into your customer.
And you guys are showing that demo here, aren't you, at the back?
We are.
So,
we are.
which is good. Tom, coming back to you, you touched on, or John, I think you might have mentioned Teams Phone Mobile, but Tom, from your point of view, in terms of the importance of that this year?
Yeah, this is a really big deal. So Teams Phone Mobile is the ability and you guys are on this program with EE, to sell the customer a single number. So SIM or eSIM most likely, that is both their mobile number, like a legit dial on my regular dialer on my mobile, and it's also a Teams number, so trunks into Teams. So like a SIM ring scenario, but much more integrated. Your voicemail will be Teams, your presence will obviously flip whether you're on mobile or on Teams. So it's not the scenario where you run a Teams app and launch the app, it is the native mobile experience. And we've obviously had various versions of FMC over the years as an industry, but this tight integration makes for a really good experience. And I've seen lots of customers that are excited about this idea that they're not doing, you know, SIM ring or call forward or any config. It's just automatically my Teams number is also my mobile number. And I think John mentioned it as well, because it's tied into Teams, you get that call recording flow through automatically because it literally is a Teams call. The media routes through Teams. So I think it's exciting times for you guys being one of the first launch partners for that, to have an edge that most other operators don't have.
Sounds good. Simon, and we'll open to the floor for questions. Excuse me as I lose my voice as we go through. Your thoughts on the growth of AI in terms of how we're going to use it in day-to-day life?
Oh God, where do we start? So I think, you know, we're going to see a lot more human interaction augmented with AI. I mean, we've been using chatbots for years and years, right? And the experience is average, I would say. I think, you know, if we start to look at what we can deliver in that conversation using AI, using things like ChatGPT, it really starts to open up a Pandora's box. I think it needs to be applied very, very carefully. We're working and have been working for the last probably 3 years with OpenAI and the guys that have brought ChatGPT to market, right? So we're looking at how we can use that to augment some of the insights and the conversational insight that we're delivering. We're also looking at how we ingest that potential communication channel into Dubbo to be able to give a more holistic view of voice and content created by an AI engine. And I think that's really, really exciting, yeah. It's not going to go away. It's only going to get more and more accelerated in its use. And I think, we all need to come to terms with how we actually leverage that positively.
Exciting times.
It's really exciting. It's really exciting. Scarily exciting.
Scarily exciting. Anything else, Tom, you probably add on ChatGPT?
Yeah, just I'd say, so my world spans a little bit into CX as well, so customer experience, contact center. I think that's an obvious use case where potentially you could put this technology in front of agents to deal with some of the more common scenarios. And obviously, there's various technologies that do that today, but this will be a different gear if you can train it in the way you need to answer questions. But also, back to the voice data, you training those things traditionally has been quite hard work, but if you could just throw lots and lots of cool scenarios at it of real agents solving a problem, the AI will literally learn how to answer the question based off the customer calls, which is really interesting. The other thing that I think will be really interesting for Google in particular is voice search. Like at the moment, voice search is a bit ropey. I'm sure we've all got Alexa and Google and Siri and stuff. Like it's pretty canned answers. But if you take some of that technology and you see how it will go in voice search, that will change the way we get answers. And as people, we won't be given 10 options and we'll be making a decision. We'll just take the answer we're given, which has all sorts of commercial implications about who gets to be the answer for, I want to choose a carrier for this country. The voice search will say this is probably the one to go for. Like, who influences that? How does that get decided? So I don't think we have answers to those questions yet, but it's very, very interesting.
Hopefully the last half an hour has given you some insight into what we're doing with Dubbo, into how we address some of the market challenges. But if there's no other questions, we'll close it there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the panel.